Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone doing very well. Let's watch this video and enjoy.
Dog says a final goodbye. There's probably nothing more heartbreaking in this world than to lose a loved one without having a chance to say goodbye. That's a reality many people face, but often, pets don't even know what happened. For one sweet little boxer dog, she got a chance to say goodbye to her best friend. When her beloved owner Ryan Jensen was taken into the hospital and diagnosed with a ventricular brain hemorrhage, Molly had no idea what was going on. Ryan's family, meanwhile, were already informed that their brother and son would not recover from this devastating condition and believed it was wrong to say goodbye without the friend that was there throughout everything. After negotiating for a visit with the hospital staff, Ryan's family arrived with Molly and all of them said their goodbyes together. Even Molly, who looks very upset as she desperately sniffs her owner. There's something heartbreaking about the desperation of her sniffs. It's as if she's desperate to wake him up.
Hey, Ryan?
Hi, Daddy Ryan.
While the video is hard to watch, it's a real testament to the kind of life this dog had. Ryan was clearly a wonderful friend, and that his family went to such great lengths to ensure she did not miss her chance to say goodbye says a lot about their connection. Number 13. Bush and Sully. When former President George H.W. Bush died in 2018, his funeral was attended by pretty much everybody. Veterans, presidents, military personnel, and one old friend that seemed particularly sad at the occasion, his service dog, Sully. During the funeral proceedings, Sully, the yellow Labrador, was escorted towards the casket in his American flag-themed service vest. Soon, he became a main focus of the occasion, photographed staring solemnly towards President Bush's coffin. While it's rare that a dog attends a presidential funeral, Sully's bond with the president went much farther than merely being a pet. When President Bush was suffering from Parkinson's disease, Sully was there to help with anything he needed, from opening doors to picking up items and even summoning help if that was required. The mournful look on Sully's face alone is evidence enough that this occasion was a sad day for him. Sully was clearly a lot more than just a pet dog to George H.W. Bush. Sully was a close friend whose whole existence revolved around helping and looking out for the ex-president. And it's so beautiful that he was there to say goodbye to his old pal. Number 12. Hawkeye. There's no closer bond than a man and his dog, and that goes far beyond the realm of the living. Even in death, you just can't shake that powerful connection. For Navy SEAL dog Hawkeye, that connection continues long after his owner has passed. When Hawkeye's owner, Navy SEAL John Tumilson, tragically died in Iraq, there wasn't any way to know how Tumilson's self-protected son Hawkeye would take the news. As it turns out, Hawkeye chose to do what may be one of the most respectful and heart-wrenching things imaginable. At the funeral of his beloved friend, Hawkeye lay at the foot of the casket throughout the whole thing, a simple move that made just about everybody's heart break. While we can't know what kind of emotions go through a dog's mind at a moment like this, it's pretty clear that he's heartbroken about the loss. Hawkeye is now living with a new family, as John wanted before he passed. He's living happily with a human family and also a dog family of 3 other Labradors. While he no doubt continues to miss his first owner, it's good to know that he's doing well. Number 11. Dog runs away. Death is undoubtedly an incredibly confusing time for pets, and it's made worse by the fact that we can't really do anything to help them. In the case of Cesar, the impact of his owner's death was pure devastation and can be seen as proof of this powerful connection between man and dog. When Mehmet Ilhan was taken into hospital with great pain, his best friend and dog, Cesar, could not bring himself to eat. And when his owner died, Cesar was hit hard and was behaving in an unusually solemn way throughout the summer period. Although Ilhan's family made all the arrangements, Ilhan's funeral procession was planned around the need for Cesar to have the goodbye he so longed for. Throughout the ceremony, Cesar sat solemnly at the foot of the casket, as if working to process this sudden absence. When his father was buried, Cesar was proud to lead the way. But this wasn't enough. Ilhan's son Ali adopted the dog in the wake of his father's death, but quickly became concerned about Cesar's habit of fleeing the house each day. Ali followed Cesar one day to find that he was sprinting to the gravestone of Mehmet Ilhan. Even in death, Cesar wanted to be with his best friend. Is there anything more heartbreaking than that? Number 10. A grieving parrot. Oddly enough, the animal most likely to become depressed over the death of a loved one is also the most vocal, the parrot. For some reason, the parrot takes death a whole lot harder than some other, more common pets, with some vets even prescribing bird-safe antidepressants to cope. One of the most heartbreaking instances of this highly emotional response can be seen in this video of Sinbad, an African gray parrot. As his elderly owner of 25 years is unwell in her hospital bed, Sinbad remains right by her side. As she whispers, "I love you," to her long-term friend, Sinbad doesn't make a noise, clearly too devastated by the whole thing. Many animal experts believe that this unusual silence is the parrot's empathetic understanding of his friend's deteriorating condition, which is both beautiful and heartbreaking. Parrots are highly intelligent animals, and it's clear that the loss of his beloved friend weighed heavily on Sinbad. But while the video is not an easy watch, it's important to remember that the bond between these two was probably the most valuable relationship he has ever had. Number 9. A dog's last breath. I'm not going to lie to you. This one's going to be tough. For many, the decision to put a beloved dog to sleep is one of the toughest and most heartbreaking that they will ever face. And this video is, for lack of a better word, is brutal. Be prepared. That's all I'm saying. This video shows what was no doubt one of the most traumatizing moments in this poor woman's life. After what must have been a difficult diagnosis, the decision was to put her beloved 4-year-old dog to sleep. And to say the video is hard to watch is an understatement. The video begins with the owner saying her final goodbyes to her dog through some restrained tears, apologizing for this tragic farewell. Within seconds, the dog peacefully passes on, and the owner breaks down into some of the most heart-wrenching screams of pain you'll ever hear in your life. I wasn't kidding when I said it was hard to watch. This is, sadly, an experience that many dog owners will have to go through, and it's just as hard to watch as it is to be part of. My heart goes out to this poor woman, as well as her beautiful dog, in what must have been the single worst moment of her life. Number 8. Horse visiting dying veteran. When someone is dying, it's more important than ever to ensure that their final wishes are being respected, and that can mean anything from funeral arrangements to inheritance agreements. But for one man, his request was something much purer. When Vietnam veteran Roberto Gonzalez discovered that his kidneys were shutting down, he decided what he wanted to do with his final moments. He wanted to be joined by 2 of his beloved horses, Ringo and Sugar. Gonzalez made his living working with these beautiful animals as one of the only disabled registered horse trainers in all of Texas, and this sweet farewell was all he wanted. After the hospital arranged for this heartwarming moment, Gonzalez was wheeled outside, where friends and family helped him as his beloved horses approached. Those present said that when the horses arrived, Gonzalez opened his eyes, and it was here that the horses began kissing their friend. What a wonderful way to spend your final moments. This veteran got his dying wish, and we're glad somebody had the good sense to record the moment. When a man dedicates his life to loving animals, those animals love him back, and that's a life well spent. Number 7. The Marine veteran's dog. Animals make such a massive impact on our lives that it seems almost trivial to just say goodbye and then move on. At the very least, these animals need a big celebration for all that they've done, and one bomb-sniffing dog definitely got that. Black Labrador Senna was a veteran in his own right, having served 3 tours in Afghanistan with the US, Marines, and his best friend in the whole world, fellow veteran Jeff DeYoung. The pair developed the strongest of bonds, providing one another with the kind of love that's hard to find on global military tours. But then Senna was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The vets made it clear that there was no alternative. Senna would have to be put to sleep. Rather than just allowing Senna to pass and then arranging a funeral, John arranged for something much more meaningful. in the form of a farewell ceremony. Jeff allowed Senna to ride in his Jeep at the front of the procession, followed by the veterans. It's a moving tribute to everything Senna did. Few dogs get the hero farewell that Senna got, and, in fact, likely, Senna wouldn't have had this farewell if he didn't have such a caring, loving, and appreciative friend like Jeff. Rest in peace, old friend. Number 6. An Iowa soldier's dog. There aren't many soldiers that would spend thousands of dollars just to rescue one dog that they met during a tour abroad. But then Brian Van Fleet isn't any other soldier. He's a man whose life was touched by one of our favorite animals on the planet. When he was on tour in Afghanistan, Van Fleet laid eyes on a homeless dog, traveling in a pack of other dogs. Over time, Van Fleet worked to gain the dog's trust and eventually succeeded in getting the dog to approach. From that point on, there was no separating Van Fleet and Odie. In fact, Odie and his friends would come out on patrol with Van Fleet's guys regularly, as if offering support of some kind. The soldier was so taken by his new friend and teammate that he spent thousands to move him from Afghanistan to Iowa, where he became the best friend you could ever hope for. Eventually, however, Odie got sick. A rash turned into a devastating illness that veterinarians still have not identified. Van Fleet had to make the difficult decision to end his friend's suffering. There are no words to describe what Van Fleet must have felt that day. But the story is a lot more than just a loss. It's a story of love. Brian Van Fleet and Odie were very fortunate to have found one another. Number 5. An emotional farewell. It's never easy to say goodbye to an old friend, but it's always made a little easier if you can take your old pal on a ride in a squad car. Okay, this is admittedly a little niche, but stick with it. The story is worth it in the end. German Shepherd Zeus worked for the Ridgefield Police Department for 8 years as a canine officer, but began suffering from a severe hip disorder and generally worsening health. Eventually, the decision was made to free Zeus from his suffering. But to simply say goodbye didn't feel right for the police department, who came to consider Zeus one of their most beloved officers. The department arranged for a grand procession in Connecticut, taking the retired officer on one last ride in a squad car. Support and cheered by residents of Ridgefield lined up along the streets with signs reading, "Thank you, Zeus. Someone pass the Kleenex." Few dogs will get the kind of send-off that Zeus got, but this is a clear demonstration of just how much of an impact he had on the community of Ridgefield. Thank you, Zeus. Number 4. A heartbroken Chihuahua. When Celine Dion sang "My Heart Will Go On," she almost definitely wasn't thinking about dogs. But the general message of the song applies to this fiercely loyal Chihuahua who just cannot stop loving the owner that was by her side all her life. During her owner's life, Dita was an inseparable companion. Wherever she went, Dita was right behind her, including to the hospital. When Teresa and her husband would go to visit her mother, she would sneak in a little Dita for secret visits with her owner, just to make sure that little Dita didn't feel too left out by the family. When her owner died of congestive heart failure, Dita was right there by her side. However, this adorably loyal Chihuahua never recovered from the tragic loss of her best friend. Now, whenever Teresa visits her mother's grave, she brings Dita, and, without fail, Dita runs right to her owner's resting place and refuses to leave. Dita's unending loyalty to her friend and owner shows just how deep the bond between pet and owner goes. Near, far, wherever they are, the bond will go on and on. I'm not going to do the whole song. Sorry. Number 3. A man's loss. The relationship between a human and their dog may well be one of the strongest bonds we can ever experience in our lives, which makes it all the more difficult to say goodbye when the time comes. This is a tough one to watch. The video shows a police officer in Mexico saying goodbye to Flora, a retired police dog that was diagnosed with terminal heart cancer. Doing the honorable thing, the police officer decided to put Flora out of her misery and even insisted on being there for her final moments. The video begins with a sweet moment of Flora and her best friend sharing one last play before the truly sad moment arrives. Time to say goodbye. Flora settles down as the vet gives her the injection, and her final moments see her looking into the loving eyes of her best friend. It's the best goodbye she could have hoped for, but it's clear that her former owner was heartbroken. The owner had a positive message alongside his video, reminding viewers that Flora lived a good life and was loved. But perhaps most importantly, he shared something we should all remember. All dogs go to heaven. Number 2. Dogs refuse to leave. Never underestimate a dog's ability for empathy. These are animals that seem to instinctively know when someone is feeling sad or unwell, and really work to cheer them up. However, I doubt anybody would have expected one dog to go this far, let alone 2. During what sounds like a pretty wild night of drinking in central Peru, a man fell and hit his head in such a severe accident that an ambulance was called immediately. His 2 dogs settled beside him, keeping watch over their beloved friend, and it seems like they were already confident that they were not going anywhere. When the paramedics began moving him into the ambulance, the dogs quickly leaped up inside, right next to him, and refused to leave. The whole journey to the hospital, the dogs nuzzled their beloved owner as the doctors did their business and followed the stretcher every step of the way. In case it's not already obvious, these dogs had no intentions of abandoning their buddy. Sadly, we have no idea if the man made it out alive or not at all. But we definitely know that his dogs followed him every step of the way, jumping up every now and then as if to reassure him they were still there. Number 1. A giraffe's goodbye. The giraffe can seem like something of a difficult animal to truly understand, given that its head is quite literally in the clouds. But if this is anything to go by, the giraffe is just as warm and caring as any other animal on this list, and extremely appreciative of the kindness they receive. After spending his whole working life at Rotterdam's Diergaarde Blijdorp Zoo, zookeeper Mario was diagnosed with terminal cancer. While that's no doubt a pretty devastating diagnosis, he only had one wish in his final days. He wanted to see his friends one last time. And his friends, of course, were the animals he had taken care of for 25 years. Thanks to the Ambulance Wish Foundation, Mario's wish was granted. After entering the giraffe enclosure, his old buddies recognized him within minutes, and also recognized that something was very wrong with him. Within minutes, the giraffes began nuzzling and kissing him, as if saying one final thank you for his hard work. And perhaps the most moving thing of all is that Mario's face bore one beaming smile. Animals are a true blessing. They can comprehend emotions far more complicated than we give them credit for, and they truly appreciate the kindness people like Mario offer them. His last hours could not have been any better. Have you ever had to say goodbye to a beloved pet? Let us know in the comments. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.
Thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, and if you really like this video, please subscribe my channel and like this video. Thank you.